Well, Ruben, in difficult circumstances, in a difficult context, what did you make of what your players gave you? The ones you did have?
I think we divide the game. We create some chances. In the end, they score. We didn't, and that was the big difference in the game. So, in the end, you can look at the game and you feel that it was an entertained game because a lot of chances. But in the end, the difference was that they scored one and we didn't.
Yeah. So what's that down to? A forward line, Zirkzee, Højlund, Garnacho had plenty of chances. Just to pick out those three guys, short of confidence, short of belief.
The first step is to create situation. We had some games that we are around the box, but we don't create situations. Today we created situation, but in the end, in this kind of games, with two teams struggling for 4 points, one goal makes all the difference. Even to try to play the game after the goal, and that was the biggest difference. We had two chances before, Garnacho again, and then we didn't score. They scored. That was the biggest difference.
So with the injuries and illnesses you had, just tell us sort of tactically in terms of your setup, how you tried to solve the problems that gave you. But particularly interested in Zirkzee, who was very central, and maybe that's a reaction to what happened with him against Newcastle.
Also that, but you start with one idea. We were asking about a long week for so long, and then we start with one idea to face the next game, to work in our principles, and then day after day you are losing players that change your approach to the game. I couldn't not play the same way with Josh, like a player like Ahmad. So we need to try to be comfortable, especially with the ball. My worry is more when we win the ball, we are in the good position to play football. So I think that was the idea, to put him more in the central area, the space. But then you want Bruno also to press, and then it's really hard. And then when you are changing all the time to try to adapt the players to the way we want to play without a base, it's really hard. But I think the difference today was like they scored one and we didn't.
When you're having, you have all these injuries and illnesses, and it sounds like you're having to change your game plan almost every day. Any thought given to just, we're just 4-4-2, we'll sit in a low block and do something completely different today?
Yeah, 4-4-2 in the low block is harder to play against this team than what we did today. That is my feeling, because they are really open, put a lot of layers inside, so they will stretch our team, and then Maguire has to do longer meters, long space to cover. So I'm also what you see, guys, and why you discussed every week. I also see. So I have my idea, you have yours. I have a lot of problems. My job is so hard, but I'm here to continue my job to the next week with my beliefs. I will try to do it and try to win again.
Like you say, you have got a very hard job. How difficult was it to affect the match during the match today with a very young bench? You made one substitution at the end. Could you have used any of those young players earlier? Or those guys, 17, 18, 19, not quite ready for that yet?
They will play. They will play during this season. We will have games for the Cup and for Europe. They will play. If not, I'm going to get more injuries, and we will not have players to play. So we are in a difficult situation. We have two more competitions. Today they could go in the game, but I feel it. I think everybody feel it that we were near the goal. I don't want to change when I feel the team is in a good moment. So that was just a tactical aspect.
Yeah, and lastly, you said one of your earlier answers, it's a hard job. You've said before, we're going to have to suffer. We're going to live through a storm. Did you ever expect it to be this difficult, though?
No, but you grow and you learn a lot of things. So we just need to face and not run away. So that is clearly my feeling. And the good thing in football is that we will start a week again. Today will hurt. It's a tough pain to lose so many games, but then you can change everything in the next week. That's our goal.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All the best to you.
Thank you.
And they will need to change things. But when we've talked about Tottenham, we've reflected on the injuries that they've had. with Manchester United, there were injuries and illness within the squad. In the build-up to this game, as he said, it was a very disruptive preparation because of that. It was changing almost on a daily basis. Is that enough to explain the performance and the result today, do you think?
Well, there's no doubt that losing Ahmad meant that they lost all the balance on that right-hand side of the pitch. And we saw what happened against Newcastle when Xerxes played in one of those he played in the left pocket that day and he had to go out to that side to defend. The problem was today it meant that Bruno Fernandes was asked to put in, I mean, not that a player should be worried about putting in a big shift. They all have to put in a big shift, but when your best player's having to basically sort of trek out 50 yards to Jed Spence and then trek back in and leave Casemiro on his own. I didn't.
And then when he gets the ball, he's tired.
He's knackered. I didn't think that was right. I just didn't think that was right. I mean, look, I'm sure that he's got problems because he's got no players to call upon who can play on that side. But for me, your best player should be reserved for winning you the game, and I didn't think it helped that at all in the first half. And it allowed Tottenham an easy out all the time. So for me, that was an issue. But look, he's right in what he says. I mean, United had 2 or 3 big chances and didn't take it. The bigger concern is that the players aren't demonstrating in this system yet, in any of the 20 games that Ruben Amorim has had, apart from maybe Liverpool away, that there is an entertainment and a performance level to this system. So, look, they're going to have to be patient. The club, the players are going to have to be patient. Ruben Amorim's going to have to be patient. Everyone's going to have to be patient. But I would like to have seen the performance levels getting higher. That's the one thing under Erik ten Hag. You can't detach result from performance. You can win sometimes not playing badly, but it'll catch you out quite a lot if you continue to play at sort of an average level. And this is a very average level that United are performing at week in, week out. And that's why Crystal Palace are beating them amongst other clubs. And that's why Tottenham beat them today. Because you're asking basically for players to take individual moments.
Let's look at the last 14 results. It's 14 points in that time in the Premier League. It's 12 defeats in their last 25. They haven't lost more games in their opening 25 games of a league season since 1973-74 when they were relegated. But these 14 that Ruben Amorim has taken charge of, the ones that he's responsible for, you talked about wanting to see improvement in performances under him. What have you seen that suggests that he's the right man to build Manchester United back?
The best thing about it so far has been actually his press conferences, and I think even today after the game, the way in which he communicates his vision and his idea and that he wants to succeed at Manchester United and he feels he'll get it right. I don't think there's anything on the pitch that I've seen so far, either in results or performances, that tell me that we're watching a really good team. We're not. It's a really poor team, this United team.
But even if it's a poor team, there are ways in which to make even a poor team look better. Are they there? He
has died in a ditch in respect of when he said very early on, I'm not going to change my idea. So now he can't. And that's, I suppose, an issue in some ways, because I do think there were probably, with those 11 players he had out on the pitch there, a better way of probably getting them into a system which would have meant they'd have felt more comfortable. But he can't change that now because of what he said previously. He's really sort of stuck his flag in the ground and sort of that's the way in which he's going to go down. But the performance levels are nowhere near good enough. And he'll know that. He had a very good team, by the way, at Sporting Lisbon. He had a fantastic team. So he knows what good looks like. He knows where he wants to take Manchester United to. The problem is at this moment in time, it's just not happening at all.
Jamie, have you seen anything on the pitch that suggests that Amorim can do this job of rebuilding Manchester United?
No, not necessarily. But the reason why I would say that is because the players aren't good enough, Kelly. It's a really poor Manchester United team. If you go back through the history of the great ones and you compare this, they are miles off it. They need 7, 8 top players to change. So we all thought that Ten Hag hasn't got a clue, he just doesn't know what he's doing, everyone else is better than him. And I'm sure this manager probably thought that, because he's got big egos, managers. He thought, I can come in there, I can change it. I know he didn't want to probably come in right now, because he thought, I need a bit of time, because the pain is only going to get worse for a while. But I do believe, and it's going to be hard because we're going to have to keep saying the same things. They need a lot of time. They need to get rid of a lot of players. They need to bring in better players because that isn't the nucleus of a squad that's going to be competing. When you look at the likes of Arsenal and Manchester City right now and Liverpool, they are miles ahead. They are not good enough. So it becomes very difficult to make a really good-looking team out of that. And I think he wants to change the culture. I think, obviously, Marcus Rashford leaving players like that, they need to go. If they're not going to be the sort of guys that are going to train well, conduct themselves the right way, be good role models about the place, they need to go. And too often, I think people at the club have ran that place and not let the manager have that control. But I think he feels like the first one that's going to get that control.
He's been strong there, but what Jamie says about the players not being good enough, if you just take Tottenham's best players, Porro, Udogie, Van de Ven, Romero, midfield of Basuma, Sarr, Maddison, Solanke, Kulusevski, Son, Johnson, Tell. How many Manchester United players would get into that Tottenham team if everybody was fit?
None.
I think Bruno. I think you'd want to have Bruno
Ahmed.
in there. Maybe Ahmad, but to be honest
he needs
with you,
time.
You've got Kulusevski or Ahmad, and I'll be honest with you, I think I'll be going probably Kulusevski.
Yeah.
So my point is, every single Tottenham player, probably barring one, if they were all available, is better than every single Manchester United player. And that's not being emotional, it's not ranting anymore. We've gone past that now. It's just really sad that that's where Manchester United are currently at. They haven't got the players.
But
that's
these players,
recruitment.
is that the level that you thought those players were at, the Manchester United squad players were at, when they were signed?
No. It's what happens to them when they get here. And we've seen players actually the other way, when they've left, actually start to thrive again. So there is something I talked about, Tottenham before, and that sort of cultural sort of that platform. What's happening in the club at this moment in time? There's a lot of redundancies off the pitch. There is a lot of uncertainty. There is a lot of uncertainty on the pitch. They've had a manager be sacked this season already. It's not easy to perform in that environment. It's been the same for 10 years, and it's still not changing at this moment in time. Hopefully in the next 2 or 3 years, Ruben Amorim is given the time to be able to build a successful team and squad. But every single Tottenham player that gets into their first 11 gets into Manchester United first, and probably apart from Bruno.
And the thing is, they've thrown fortunes at it. Fortunes. But if your recruitment is wrong, or your idea of a player, and you're bringing on 30-year-olds and signing them from the absolute fortunes from 4 or 5 year it's not sustainable, and it's never going to work. So that's the other thing. So they have to change now. People like Jason Wilcox who's been brought in. Jason knows the game inside out. Can't think of his name. The guy from Man City, who's obviously a fantastic CEO, Barada. So there are people that they are trying, but this you can't. I looked at that team today, and I'm thinking, looking at the subs, I actually felt sorry for him. It was really difficult to get a shape of a midfield. You could talk about systems all day long. He didn't have the personnel, really, that he would have liked at his disposal to get the result that he wanted.
If you're going to play two in midfield, you need legs.
Absolutely.
I think the way the game's gone now, everything's data-driven. So you talk about recruitment, and, back in the days, eyes don't lie. You can see play. After 5 minutes, right, he's a player, that's what I want. But everything's data-driven now, and I think sometimes you've got to be very careful. But I agree with what Gary said about just not good enough, the players. We can talk about systems, but you talk like Bruno Fernandes today is probably the one, really. You think Ahmed was missing today, but the shift that he put in today, going out and just vacating a massive space in the middle of the pitch, got Casemiro, sort of back end of his career, it's difficult, and it's sort of like there's no structure. If that was a training session and it was 11v11, and you can blow the whistle at any stage, you'd blow the whistle, there'd be players all over the place. There was no structure, in possession or out of possession. It's
Casemiro becomes like a bit of he gets a lot of stick.
Yeah.
That in his defence, I played midfield. I felt sorry for him today and there, because he looks, of course, because he's covering distances that are impossible for Rodri to cover. Rodri would have found it hard in that midfield today on his own, and he's the number one, as we say. But it was impossible for him. And if you haven't got the personnel, and he's got injuries right now, it becomes extremely difficult. Is he the right man? Like, you can keep sacking managers left, right, and centre, because it has to, like Gary says, there's stuff off the field that have to change. They have to change the personnel, but that will take time. You can't just have one window when you bring in 6, 7 players and expect it all to gel. It is going to take time. But probably the finances, Gary, with financial fair play, are they in a position to go and buy right now?
I don't think so, unless they get rid of players. I don't think they've got that 150, 200 million anymore. I think that sort of Anthony Casemiro window where 150, 200 million was spent was a really bad one. Because that was a panic one that wasn't in. I don't think that was in the business plan at the end. It was when they lost to Brentford.
And I think my
Brighton.
understanding is that's part of the reason why there's this new round of layoffs coming up, is that it's all part of trying to balance those PSR books for Manchester United. So it may be that whole scale changing of the squad might be a little way, and there might yet be more pain for Manchester United, who find themselves in 15th place in the Premier League title. At the other end of the table, it was a 2-1 win for Liverpool at home to Wolves.